My mom was totally against my relationship from day one. This man checks all my points and treats me so well. But for some reason I don't understand, my mom doesn't want me to be with him. And what is shocking is that he's the son of a very good friend of hers. When he comes around, she acts all nice, as if she wants him there. But immediately he leaves, all hell breaks loose. She will get very angry and ask me why I'm still with him. Like, I love this man, he's a good man, so why can't I be with him? She never gives me any tangible reasons why I shouldn't be with him. She will just say she knows what she's saying and that she's the adult. I also don't want to leave him because I want to be with him. We've argued over this so many times that right now my mom is not even talking to me anymore. The last time we spoke about this, she told me to choose between my man and her. And when I couldn't give her an answer, she told me not to contact her anymore till I make up my mind. Now, my grandmother, who I'm close with, has been sick for some months now. Growing up, my grandmother was the heart of our family. I loved being with her because she always made me smile. We'd sit together for hours, sharing stories and laughing. She's almost 90 years old and her health has been declining. She lives in my hometown and I try to visit her whenever I can. Now, one day, I received a call from my uncle telling me to come to my hometown urgently because my grandmom was in a critical state and she wanted to talk to me urgently. I drove to my hometown to meet her that same day. Immediately I got there, she invited me to her bedside. I could tell she wanted to talk about something serious. In my mind, I thought she wanted to share some family wisdom or just catch up since I've not seen her in weeks. But what she told me shattered my world and I finally understood why my mom didn't want me to be with my man. Part 2 is up. My grandmom told me my mom had been hiding a dark secret for over a decade. You know, in the past, when my mom started arguing with me over my relationship, my grandmom was the one I called to tell her about what my mom was trying to do to me. And the only thing she told me the first time I called her was that my mom had her own reasons for doing what she was doing and that I should bear with her and listen to what she was saying. Now, according to my grandmom, about 10 years ago, after her dad passed away, my mom got very depressed. I was around 12 years old at this time, but I was in boarding school. She said it was a dark time in our family's history. My mom started drinking heavily. Now, during that period, whenever I came home for vacation, I saw that my mom was acting strange. But I didn't know it was because she had started drinking. But one thing I remember is that she was always in bed, especially after her father died. Now, according to my grandmom, one day my mom went out late at night. She went to the bar to drink like she always does. But this time around, she went out with her car. My grandmom said she was getting ready to go to bed when she heard someone banging on her door. My mom was not staying with her at the time. She was staying with my dad in another part of the town. She heard my mom crying and shouting for her to open the door for her. When my mom entered, she smelled of alcohol and she was crying uncontrollably. She was also shaking. My grandmom tried to calm her down and asked her what was going on. After she calmed down a little, she told my grandmom she has been in a horrible accident. She had hit a young man with her car while she was driving home. My mom didn't see him until it was too late. The young man died instantly, and in a panic, my mom drove away. As if this news wasn't heavy enough, my grandmother shared a shocking twist that shook me to my core. Part 3 is up. After my mom confessed to my grandmom about hitting a young man with her car, my grandmom helped her cover it up. She said they did it out of fear. They buried it deep like it never happened. As if this story was not bad enough, when my grandmom told me who the young man was, I screamed out loud. It was my boyfriend's elder brother. Now, like I said before, his mom and my mom used to be very close. They went to the same high school together and were inseparable. But for some reason, my mom started distancing herself from her. And now I finally understood why. I knew my boyfriend lost his brother years ago, but I didn't really know much about the details because my boyfriend didn't like to talk about it. After she told me the story, my grandmom begged me to stay away from my man. She said we can never be happy together and that I should listen to my mom and end things with him. She begged me to protect my mom and my family. A few days after this emotional confession, my grandmother's health took a turn for the worse and she passed away. Since the accident, my mom has never touched a drink. No matter the occasion, she would never drink alcohol. And now it makes sense why she always tried to keep me away from my boyfriend and why she stopped hanging out with his mother. At this point, I've not even told my mom I know about her past. How do I confront her about something like this? How will it affect her? And what about my boyfriend? He deserves to know the truth. But telling him means putting my mom into trouble. Part of me wants to keep it a secret. But how can I live with this information and not share it with the person I care about the most? And I don't see myself keeping this a secret while still remaining in a relationship with my boyfriend. I feel lost. Should I just end things with him like my mom and my grandmom want and protect my family and keep this secret? Should I also confront my mom? I really don't know what to do. My whole life has been turned upside down. Please help me. This follower needs your advice, babes. Please drop some below. And don't forget to follow me for more story times. About 6 months ago, I met this amazing woman. Let's call her Rita. She was one of the cleaners in my apartment complex. Rita is beautiful and sweet, and she has always had this warm smile that could light up a room. Every time she saw me, she'd greet me and ask how my day was going. That was how we became friends, and over time, we started chatting more. And I found myself drawn to her kindness and hardworking nature. Rita told me about her struggles, how she'd been working multiple jobs just to make ends meet. I admired her determination and I wanted to help her. At this point, I had already fallen in love with her. I proposed to her and she said yes. Immediately we started dating. I decided to open a small shop for her so she wouldn't have to clean anymore. She was very happy when I took her to the shop I was renting for her. I felt like I was doing something good for someone I cared about. She told me she wanted to sell wigs. She had tried selling them before, but because she didn't have enough capital, the business fell apart. We are currently renovating the shop and she's also talking to some vendors who can ship the wigs to her. Now, my mom traveled for some time, and so throughout this dating period, she had never met her. We finally went to meet her a few days ago after she came back, and all hell broke loose when my mom saw her. But who is her? My mom is the sweetest, most loving person you will ever meet. She's been through a lot in life, but she's always been strong and kind. I've never seen her disrespect anyone, and she's always taught me to treat people with respect, no matter their background. When I told my mom I was dating Rita, she was excited to meet her. In fact, when I first started talking to Rita, and I told my mom I had feelings for a cleaner in my apartment, she was the one who pushed me to propose to her. Now, after my mom came back to the country, I arranged the dinner at my place, and that is when everything went downhill. The moment my mom walked in and saw Rita, her face turned pale. Rita looked shocked too, but she tried to play it cool. At first, I didn't notice what was going on. I was very excited to finally introduce the woman I loved to my mom. I called Rita to come over, and I could see she looked a little scared. There was still a look of shock on my mom's face. After Rita got to my side, I introduced her to my mom. My mom didn't say a word. She just kept looking at Rita. After a few seconds, Rita said, "Ma, it's nice meeting you." She reached out her hand to shake my mom, but my mom slapped her hand away and shouted, "No way." She pulled me aside immediately and said, "That is the woman I told you about. She's the woman who humiliated me in the shop a few months ago." I was confused, but then my mom told me the story. Part 3 is a few months ago, my mom went into a shop to buy something. Rita was working there as a sales girl. My mom picked up a product and was looking at it when she realized she had left her phone in the Uber she had just taken. Panicking, she ran out of the shop to get it. Forgetting she was still holding the product, Rita ran after her, shouting, "Thief, stop her." My mom was embarrassed and tried to explain. Rita even saw her taking the phone she had left behind from the Uber, but Rita wouldn't listen. Despite her rudeness, my mom went back to the shop and continued to shop for the things she went there to buy. But Rita followed her around the shop, making snide comments about how she was dressed, telling my mom she knew people like her and that there was no way she can afford the things she was buying. She said my mom was there to steal from her and that she won't allow her to succeed. Throughout all this, my mom was trying to explain to her that she was not a thief and that she'll pay for everything she buys. But Rita started shouting and insulting her. My mom, who has always been a bit sensitive, left the shop in tears and called me crying. At the time, I didn't know who the sales girl was. At the time, I was very angry and even wanted to go and confront the sales girl. But my mom told me to just leave her and that karma would deal with her. And now here we are, and that sales girl is now my girlfriend. Part 4 is up. My mom was furious. She told me she wants nothing to do with Rita. Now, my mom already knows about the shop I was opening for her, and she was in full support of it before. But now, she said I should take back the shop and cut her out of my life. She said, "How can you be with someone who treated me like that? She's very rude and disrespectful. I don't want this woman in my family." Rita, on the other hand, begged for forgiveness. She said she was in a bad place back then, stressed, overworked, and dealing with personal issues. She admitted she took out her frustrations on my mom and regrets it deeply. She said she genuinely loves me and wants to make things right. But here is the thing. I didn't know this side of Rita. I always thought she was sweet and kind. I didn't know she had a side that could be so cruel and judgmental. My mom is my rock and she hates her. And now I feel like she has been pretending with me all this while. I've not spoken to her since we saw my mom a few days ago. I really love her, but I can't get over how she treated my mom. My mom is the kind of person who would give you the shirt off her back. And seeing her disrespected like that makes my blood boil. I'm thinking about breaking up with Rita and taking back the shop I opened for her. I feel like she doesn't deserve my support after what she did. But at the same time, I wonder if I'm overreacting. People make mistakes, right? Maybe she has changed. What do you think? Should I give Rita another chance and talk to my mom to forgive and accept her? Or is this a deal breaker? Your opinions will really mean a lot to me. This follower needs your opinions, babes. Please drop some below. And don't forget to follow me for more story times. A few years ago, my life was a mess. I was broke. I'd lost my job and was eventually evicted from my apartment. I had nowhere to go and no one to turn to except for my friend. Let's call her Jay. Jay and I have been friends since high school. When I showed up at her door, homeless and desperate, she didn't hesitate to take me in. She let me stay with her for 6 months and even helped me find a job. I owe her everything. Fast forward to now, my life is back on track. I have a stable job and my own apartment. Jay and I are still close, though we don't see each other as often as we used to. A few weeks ago, Jay called me in tears. She said she was being evicted from her apartment and had nowhere to go. Without a second thought, I told her she could stay with me. I said, "You were there for me when I had nothing. It is my intent to help you." Jay moved in and things were fine at first. She was looking for a new job and seemed determined to get back on her feet. But then I started noticing things that didn't add up. She'd leave the apartment late at night and come back in the early hours of the morning, dressed in clothes that seemed unusual for just running errands. She'd also get mysterious phone calls and would step outside to take them. Then one day, she came home with a man. She said he was her friend. She said he was just there to spend the night and would leave the next day. This was strange and impromptu, but I didn't say anything. And then just a couple of days later, she came with another man who was also coming to spend the night and leave the next day. I started getting suspicious at this point. I confronted her and she said the man was just her friend. She said he came to see her from another state and will be leaving the next day. I just nodded and left her. Then a week later, I met her ex-boyfriend and what he told me shook me to my core. Part 2 is up. He told me that Jay had been lying to me about her job. She was now a hookup girl. She slept with men for money. Turns out, Jay had been using her apartment to meet clients. And her landlord found out. That is why she was evicted. She was still with her boyfriend at this point, but he didn't know the kind of job she was doing. She moved in with him, and whenever he was not at home, Jay would bring her clients to his apartment. It was one of his neighbors who told him what was going on. I was furious after talking to him. I felt like Jay had taken advantage of my trust. Immediately I got home, I confronted her and she finally told me the truth. I told her I was not comfortable with her lifestyle and asked her to leave. She called me selfish and said I was abandoning her when she needed me the most. Now I'm feeling guilty. Jay was there for me when I had no one and I'm turning my back on her when she needed help. But at the same time, I feel like she betrayed my trust and put me in a difficult position. She moved out yesterday. I just want to know if I'm wrong for refusing to let Jay stay with me after finding out she's a hookup girl, especially since she was bringing her clients into my home. Should I have been more understanding? Am I being a terrible friend or was I right to protect myself? This follower needs your opinions, babes. Please drop some below. And don't forget to follow me for more story times.